The small intestines wrap around the navel. So when they get tight, because they're made out of smooth muscle tissue and they have a heavy job, sometimes they can become fatigued and begin to become stiff and get tight. And you can actually release pressure points in the small intestine just like you can in skeletal muscles. And I'll show you how while I'm showing you how to release the abdominal muscles. Let me show you. These knots that form around the navel are pretty intense sometimes, and I think they're associated with low back pain. So while I'm showing you the abdominal muscle releases, I'll show you those. So let's go on to the rectus abdominis. The rectus abdominis, like all the other abdominal muscles, cover the abdomen. So their job is to keep the contents of the abdomen contained, and also to move the pubic bone towards the rib cage in this case. And this muscle, if it has fibers that are tight, you'll actually lose tone. So it's really important to work with the rectus abdominis to work out any spasm in the muscle, and that helps increase the tone in the muscle, and it actually helps to decompress all the organs. So going around the crest, the anterior crest of the ribs, you have the liver and the gallbladder and the spleen and the pancreas and the stomach and right in the middle. And this rectus abdominis actually causes compression of all those organs if it gets really, really tight. Between that and the diaphragm, you're really going to have some compression on those organs. So the idea of these techniques is to release pain and discomfort around the ribs, the anterior crest, which is the front of the ribs. So we just did the rectus abdominis. Now let's do the external oblique. Each of these muscles, what you're doing is you're taking the slack out. They're like sheet-like muscles. So you're taking the slack out with, using two hands, taking the slack out, and then using a ridge of fingers to press into the muscle while you're stretching it. And use yang, where you're slowly building your pressure, and then make it feel like you're slowly backing your pressure out over about a minute, even though you don't go anywhere. And that triggers the release, and you start feeling melting under your fingertips. Now, when if you get releases in the external oblique, you take pressure right off of the spleen, which can encourage the flow of. I know it sounds crazy, but it encourages the flow of stem cells, which are made by the spleen, into the body. So that helps with healing, and helps your blood because the spleen nurtures blood cells. And if you do it on the left side, it'll help the liver and the gallbladder. So right now I'm working on the transverse abdominis, which is the deepest of all four of the abdominal muscles. And the path is kind of like a weight belt. It goes to the belly button in the front, or to the linea alba, which is a line that attaches all the abdominal muscles in the front line of the body there, in the abdomen. It comes from the vertebrae. So what it does is it squeezes right around the midline of the waist. So we're taking the slack out of the fibers from the back towards the belly button, and holding the points with my fingers and doing yang, trying to increase my pressure and then slowly backing my pressure out, very slowly over about a minute, even though I don't really give up any of the stretch, and trying to trigger a release. So when I feel fibers in here release, just that the ring of fibers in the transverse abdominis that come from the back around to the front, I just feel it all melting. So this helps with indigestion and constipation too, by the way. So there's one more abdominal muscle called the internal oblique, and it comes from the ilium, so from the hip bone, and kind of the center of the path it goes to is about the belly button. So see how I'm sliding off of the hip bone here, and sliding the muscles, stretching them towards the navel. And by the way, people tend to have tension right around the navel, and that's an important area. You have to both be careful and persistent with trying to do releases in this internal oblique as those fibers come towards the navel. If you can release these, it really is kind of amazing, and release the tension that's right around under the navel. That releases tension over the aorta, and it frees up the small intestines, because the mesenteries, or the small intestines, travel through a maze-like path around the belly button. And you have to keep these muscles released so that flow is unimpeded by muscle tension across this muscle. Like I said, releasing the abdominal muscles helps really increase the tone in the abdomen. Helps. I don't know if you can tell, but by the end of this treatment, her her abdomen really drops more and more, becomes more and more concave. And I remember when I'm doing this technique, I can really feel the fibers of this transverse or of the internal oblique coming off of the hip bone. They were actually pretty tight. So stretching it, holding the pressure with my fingertips, and then over about a minute, slowly backing my pressure out, trying to trigger release, and then just waiting it out until the whole muscle relaxes. So if you really get this to relax, that discomfort feeling around the navel will go away, and actually low back pain goes away from behind the navel, which is at the top of the lumbar spine, and each area of the abdomen. When you release tension in the abdominal muscles and down in the abdomen, it's really kind of amazing what it does. It takes pain out of the actual back. So someone could come in complaining of back pain, and if you do this right on the other side of where they have the pain, this sometimes is a trick to get it to release. Yeah, it looks like I'm getting it. I could just see it softening up. Okay, that's it. That's how you release pain around the navel and small intestine discomfort that people can have that's associated with low back pain. So there you go, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.